class today is going to focus on the classic sequence Sun Salute A. Now, this is one of my favorite sequences because it's one that if you practice it regularly, you will start to see some incredible changes in your physical practice. So it's one of those flows that really works the full body, helps you build strength, mobility. You're going to love it. We're going to get started in a comfortable seat. I want you to let the hands just rest right on the tops of the knees, close the eyes, and just take a nice deep breath. Starting to pay attention to your breath as it comes into the body and out. On your next inhale, we're going to sweep the arms all the way up. You can keep the eyes closed if you would like. Connect the palms overhead, and as you exhale, bring the hands down to the heart. We'll do this a couple more times together. So inhale, sweep the arms all the way up. Connect. Exhale, bring the hands down to the heart. Inhale up. Exhale down. One more time. Breathing a little deeper this time. Inhale. And exhale. Very good. Start to blink open the eyes. Take a big breath. We'll sweep the arms up. This time reaching and grabbing one wrist. It doesn't matter which side. And we're going to reach over to the right for a side body stretch. Come back up to center and then over to the left. A couple more times on each side. So just flowing from one side to the other. Really feeling that length you're creating in the side of the body. This is one of my favorite stretches. And then we'll reach up. We're going to bring the hands all the way now behind the back. Interlace the hands behind your back and squeeze the shoulder blades together, lifting the heart. Take a couple breaths here. One more. And then release the hands. Now we're going to come into a cobbler's pose. So we'll bring the bottoms of our feet together. We'll let the knees open out to the side. And I want you to sit nice and tall. When you do this, you might already start to feel a deep stretch in the inner thighs and in the hip flexors, and that's a good thing. I want you to take a deep breath here, and if you're able to, start to fold forward. So you'll find you don't have to fold super deep to get a good stretch. Maybe you even start to walk the hands forward a little bit. I want you to just find that point where you're feeling a good stretch because we're still in our warm-up phase, so we don't want to be forcing anything. But what I do want is for you to breathe a little bit deeper here. Just noticing where you feel the sensation of the stretch in the body. One more breath. Start to walk those hands back up. Very good. So now we're going to widen our stance. So I want you to scoot your feet forward a little bit more. Again, let the knees just fall wherever they fall to. They don't have to be flat. They might be up a little higher. That's okay. Take a nice deep breath in here. Find a little bit more length in your spine, and then we'll start to fold if you have the space. Taking that moment to, again, notice where you're feeling the stretch. Relaxing your jaw and relaxing your shoulders a little bit here. And we'll start to walk the hands back up. Awesome. Now we're going to straighten the legs all the way forward. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. We're going to come into a seated forward fold now. So the legs are straight, toes are flexed and pointed up, and we're sitting nice and tall. When you sit tall in this pose, again, that's already lengthening the hamstrings. So you might feel a good stretch if you're a little tight there. And then from here, we'll start to fold forward. You don't have to be able to touch your toes. Maybe the hands just come to the side of the legs. Maybe they do come all the way down. Just find your forward fold today. Again, we don't want to force anything, but I want you to get into a space where you feel a good stretch in the hamstrings here. Take a few deep breaths. Awesome. Slowly come back up. And then we'll come onto our hands and our knees. So I want you to spread your fingers nice and wide here. The hips are stacked right on top of the knees. This is tabletop pose. And from here, we're going to flow through some cat and cow stretches. So we'll start by just sort of feeling and noticing the stretch, and then we'll start to move with our breath. So to start, we'll come into cow. In cow pose, we're going to lower the belly, lift our heart, and lift our tailbone. Start to arch the back, squeeze the shoulders onto the back. Notice how this feels. I know I feel this in my chest and in my upper back. And then we'll come into cat. So for cat pose, we're going to round our back, pulling our shoulder blades apart, tucking our tailbone under, and tucking our chin. I want you to really feel that nice stretch in the back of the body. Together, let's take a big breath in for cow. Lower the belly, lift the heart. And then exhale, cat. Round the back, tuck the chin, and tuck the tailbone. Inhale, cow. Lower the belly, lift the heart. Exhale, cat. Flowing with our breath. Feel that stretch in the back of the body. 2 more times. Inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. And then meet back in tabletop. We're going to come into our first downward facing dog of our practice. So our fingers are spread nice and wide. We're going to flip our toes and then lift our hips high to the sky. In this downward dog, you have some options here. What I see a lot is that people try to do their best to straighten those legs, but then they start to shift the weight forward, kind of dumping into the upper back and really dumping the weight into the hands. And this is what we don't want. So if you find that you're doing that, instead I want you to put a bend in the knees so that you can really push the mat away from you, dropping your heart toward your thighs. And so you'll really feel this in the shoulders, especially if you're not used to being in this pose. And then from here, over time, you'll be able to start to straighten the legs, pressing those heels down towards the mat. Now, I don't know if my heels will ever touch the mat, and that's okay. So a downward dog might look a little bit different in every person, and that's normal. But the biggest thing I want you to focus on is keeping that even weight between the hands and the feet, lengthening the spine, making sure that the heart is dropping toward the thighs, and then putting a bend in your knees here if you need to. All right, so we've been here for a little time now. We're going to gaze forward and walk our feet to the top of our mat. We'll rise all the way up to standing. Let's sweep the arms all the way up. Connect the palms and bring the hands down to the heart. Excellent. So we're going to flow first through a modified Sun Salute A. And so I'm going to share with you different ways to modify this flow. But these are modifications that apply to any yoga practice that you do here, any yoga practice you do on your own or in a class at a studio. These are things that you can always substitute so that you can make your practice fit exactly where you are on your journey. So we'll start by standing at the top of our mat. We have even weight between our feet, rooting down, Standing tall, relaxing our shoulders, and the arms are just down by your side. Take a big breath in and sweep the arms all the way up. Maybe even gaze up towards the sky. And then exhale, fold forward, bend at the hips. So here is our first modification. So if you would like, you can put a bend in the knees, because what we don't want is you to round your back because you're straightening your legs and you can't reach, because this is folding in our back. We want to fold at the hips. So if you're tight, put a bend in the knees, bend at the hips, bring the hands down, relaxing the head. Halfway lift, lengthen the spine, shoulders squeeze back, and the hands come to the shins. So you can keep your knees bent here too if you would like, but we're really focusing on flattening our back the best we can. So for me, I'm kind of sticking my tailbone out a little bit, my shoulder blades squeeze back, I'm lengthening the neck, lengthening the spine, and I'm gazing straight down. Very good. From here, we're going to fold, coming all the way back down, bending those knees if you need. Plant the hands and step back to plank, like the top of a push-up. We're going to lower to chaturanga. So chaturanga is so hard. It's a very challenging pose. So I recommend lowering the knees if you need to modify. The elbows point straight back. We're going to lower all the way down to our belly. So come all the way down and then flip the toes. So our first back bend is going to be cobra pose. So the toes are pointed straight down. Hands are right next to the chest. The elbows are bent and pointed straight back. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back. And as you inhale, we're going to lift the heart, coming into cobra. Doing your best to keep the hips rooted down, pressing the toes into the mat. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, lower all the way down. We're going to come up to tabletop. So coming up to our hands and our knees. We'll flip our toes and come into downward dog. Lifting those hips high to the sky, remembering you can bend your knees here if you need to. Take a few breaths here in your downward dog. Very good. One more breath. Gaze forward, and then walk your feet all the way to the top of your yoga mat. We'll meet in a forward fold, bending at the hips and putting a bend in the knees if you need to. Halfway lift, lengthen the spine, bring the hands to the shins, shoulders squeeze back. So I want you to make your back as flat as possible. Gaze is straight down. Very good. And then fold. We're going to rise all the way to standing. Sweep the arms all the way up. Connect the palms. And then bring the hands down to the heart. Excellent. That is a modified Sun Salute A. Now, if you're an absolute beginner, this might have even felt very fast to you because these are all new positions and new poses. So don't get discouraged. This is a flow that you will see many, many, many times. So you'll have lots of opportunities to get the hang of it and to practice. So don't be discouraged. We're going to flow through this again. This time I will not modify anything. I'll show you the classic Sun Salute A. But if you'd like, feel free to practice the modifications that we did before, and I'll kind of point out where and how to do that. So stand tall, relax the shoulders, just take a deep breath. Take a big breath and sweep the arms all the way up, reach nice and tall, and maybe gaze up. Exhale, fold forward, bend at the hips. Bending the knees here if you need to. We'll come into halfway lift. Lengthen the spine, shoulders squeeze back. Now, if you're very mobile, you can keep the fingertips down on the mat. If not, bring them to the shins. And then we'll fold. Plant your hands and step back to plank pose. So this is where it gets a little bit different. You can lower your knees if you'd like for your chaturanga. We're going to lower halfway. And this time we're going to come into an upward facing dog. So this is a little bit of a deeper back bend. The knees and the thighs are active, so we're sort of lifting them up. Maybe they don't even touch the mat. Squeeze the shoulders onto the back, so your shoulders are stacked right on top of the wrists, and you're breathing deep. Maybe smiling because we're doing yoga. Press back, downward dog. Awesome job. Take a couple breaths here in your down dog. So I do want to point out, if upward facing dog is too much of a back bend for you, a little too deep, that's okay. You can always do cobra pose instead. Gaze forward. Walk your feet all the way to the top of your mat, meeting in a forward fold. Halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Shoulder blades squeeze back and fold. Rise all the way up to standing. Sweep the arms up, connect the palms. Bring the hands down to the heart. And then down by your side. So we're going to flow through this a couple more times. I want you to modify in any position that you need to. Okay? There's no shame in modifying. In fact, that is why I love yoga so much, is because you can make the practice fit exactly where you are. So the other thing too is that you might pick and choose modifications. So maybe chaturanga, you're still modifying, but you're able to do the upward facing dog back bend or vice versa. It doesn't matter. Make this flow work for you. So we'll stand tall. Take a big breath in, sweep the arms all the way up, reach tall. Fold forward, bend at the hips. Halfway lift, lengthen the spine, shoulders squeeze onto the back. And then fold. Plant your hands, step back to plank. Hold here. Lower to chaturanga, dropping the knees if you need. Cobra or upward facing dog. Take a full round of breath here, whichever back bend you choose. Press the hips back, we'll meet in downward facing dog. Take 3 deep breaths in your down dog. Gaze forward. Walk the feet all the way to the top of your yoga mat. Halfway lift. Flatten the spine, shoulders squeeze onto the back, gaze down. And fold deep. Rise all the way up to standing. Sweep the arms up. We're going to go right into this one more time. Fold forward, bend at the hips. Let the upper body fold in, bend your knees if you need. Halfway lift, shoulder blades squeeze back, flatten the spine the best you can. And fold. Step back to plank pose, like the top of a push-up. We're going to lower to chaturanga, drop the knees if you'd like. Cobra pose or upward facing dog. Keep those legs active, whichever pose you're in. Squeeze the shoulders onto the back. And then press the hips back, downward facing dog. Take 3 deep breaths in your down dog, putting a bend in your knees if you need to. Making sure that there's even weight between the hands and the feet. Gaze forward and walk your feet all the way to the top of your mat. meeting in a forward fold. Halfway lift, lengthen your spine, flatten the back here, and then fold deep. Rise all the way to standing. Sweep the arms up. And then bring the hands down to the heart. I want you to close your eyes here. Feel yourself standing on your 2 feet. Just start to observe and notice how you are feeling. Start to notice your breath as it comes and goes from the body. Maybe you can feel your heart beating. I know I can feel my heart beating. Let the arms come all the way down to your side. And then we'll find our way onto our backs. We're going to come into a happy baby pose. So we're going to hug the knees into the chest. Maybe rock side to side to start. And then we're going to grab the outer edges of our feet. We're going to lift our feet up towards the sky, hugging the knees in towards the underarms here. And so you have the option. Can be a little of an intense pose. So if this is a little too tight, you can grab behind the knees instead. That's a perfect way to modify. Wherever you are, I want you to close the eyes, soften the shoulders and the upper body. Maybe rock side to side here in this happy baby pose. Taking this time to notice your breath. Start to notice where in the body you are experiencing the stretch. We're going to hug the knees into the chest and give ourselves a squeeze. We'll come into Shavasana. So for Shavasana, we're going to let our arms come down to the side and let the legs fall all the way down onto the mat. Close your eyes. Take a couple breaths just at your natural pace. As you rest in Shavasana. I encourage you to stay in your Shavasana for as long as you would like. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste.